Hi, welcome back. One word a day. My name is Sophie. I'm your tour guide into the world of Chinese culture and the Chinese speakers. Because I'm a native one, I probably can show you the real Chinese word in use, in action, and is relevant to today's life. Okay, so we started yesterday talking about this spaceship that was in the news last month, and I made a mistake. I thought this word "fei" was already used in somewhere, but it turned out that's the carryover word for today. So I'm going to probably explain to you a little bit more about this word. 飞流直下三千尺. So the word "fei" is simply flying. And you can see it looks almost like a hummingbird with the wings fluttering in the back. Very easy, right? And it's asymmetrical. It's one of the rarer Chinese characters that are asymmetrical. A lot of them are, or they have a left, right, very organized, very, stable structure. You can tell how they're put together. But Fei is one unique one. I guess that kind of suits it's a meaning because it is flying. It is keep moving, and there's nothing stable there, and you're totally riding on the air to get through the air. Okay, second word, liu. So we have the left part that signifies water. Anything about water comes with these three dots, but you have to dot it correctly. It's downward, downward, and then longer upward dot. So that means water. And liu at the right side is the sound, but also the bottom part looks like water flowing in a tunnel, right? And altogether is a flying current. It is a different way of expressing how the current is tumbling. This whole scenery is talking about the waterfall falling down 3,000 yards. But here we're using the word of flying to give you a sense of, I have been to close to the waterfall. It does have like a water splashes, like a flying in the air. And so this word is kind of very succinct way to express the feeling of, the humidity increases and the vapor, the tiny little water drops in the air, kind of flying around. It's not just a downward motion, but there are things in the air, like the whole sphere near the waterfall surrounds you. And 直下. Okay, so 直 means straight. You kind of can see, right? It's a very straight rectangular structure with a lot of straight lines, except for the top one. I don't exactly know why the top one kind of have a to put the horizontal beam on it. But in Chinese, we have 直 and 弯 is an opposite meaning. So 直 means straight, 弯 means curved. Both of them like a one-dimensional, we can say. So something is straight, one straight line, and curve is one curved line. And here we have a kind of like a cultural, I don't want to say appropriation, but when some concepts come to China, we have to capture it in a way that makes sense to Chinese people with our current language, existing language concepts in there. So when when the heterosexual, homosexual concepts imported to China, I mean, pretty sure they had it before, but it's just not verbalized, be in public, right? So we continue use the character straight, just like in the West, like straight means heterosexual. And then we use curved means homosexual. Because it's an opposite meaning in Chinese character, probably that's convenient, but it also could be a kind of like a discrimination if you want to read it like that, because straight is easy to understand from A to B. There's no question, that's the standard. You don't have to really think about it. But if it's a curve, it's like a throw you a curveball. Like it's not the norm. You cannot really, well, it's a hard to tell kind of situation. And then the next word, 直下, 下 means down. And this is a word that also comes with the, the visual indicators. So we have a horizontal line, which is your benchmark. And then you have one perpendicular line below it. And then another sideways line, on the side. So both this perpendicular and the sideways line are pointing downward, which indicates, okay, this is something below it, or this is something going down toward downward. So it can be both like a static positioning of, your bench line and then something down below it, or it's your bench line, here's your position and something is moving down. So it's, convenient way of expressing that in one word. And then the next three words, 三千尺. So, okay, this is obvious, right? 3. And Chinese, we only have 1, 2, 3. So one strike. 1, 2, 3. I think most beginners of Chinese speak Chinese language beginners are, know this 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And when it comes to 4, it's a completely different way of expressing it, because things are getting too complicated with 4 lines. It's harder to read. And the next word, 千, we have here a cross in Chinese means 10. So we have 10 digits. Wait, do I have a 9 there? Yeah, 10 digits starting from 1. I mean, we do have a 0, but it's a very complicated character. We probably can, meet that word in time down the road. But we start from 1, 2, 3, right? And then we have some form of 4, 5, 6 until 10. 10 is crossed like that. In Chinese counting and concept, that this means a completion, a full circle. Like you already have 10. Like, and then when it comes to 11, it's like, okay, on the base of 10, you add 1 more. So, I mean, I guess that just says like Chinese also like a decimal system. And when it has this sideway stroke on top of it, like wearing a hat, slanted, that instantly make this 10 to 1,000, like a triple digit number. And you can visualize here, we have a 3, right? And then we have triple digit here. And the last word simply 尺. I think that also is a visual, and then it becomes abstract. Now it's kind of hard to say how that shape, that, with what everything do over there. Probably it's an ancient way of measurement of something. But Chinese also use yard, and Chinese yard is a little bit different from English yard, but I guess they're pretty close to us. So it's kind of, the closest concept we can find to express this word as yard. And this full line, I'm sorry to overloading you with 7 characters on the screen, but this is a very famous line from a poem written almost 1,200 years ago by the most well-known Chinese poet called Li Bai. And he is considered a romantic poet, and that likes to use hyperbole, exaggeration, 3,000 yards. It's like make it very impressive. And I did my homework this time. I checked online the world record on land waterfall. It's roughly about 2,000 yards if you convert it to yards. So he is still exaggerating back then. And you can check out now, you already finished today's quota. This is a freebie for you. This is just the second line for that continuation of this waterfall 3,000 feet down. And this is another description of how it felt for the poet describing this waterfall. He said, it looks like Milky Way falling from 9 levels of sky. It's hard to describe in another language. But then if I try to match it to English one by one, so the first word, 疑是银河落九天. So 疑 means you suspect, you wonder, so you're not sure. Like so this simply is a starter of the statement of you're getting something, comparison, but that's not realistic, but you start to compare with something exotic to make sense of how, the sense of scale or impact it feels on you. And 是, well, we learned no, right, which is 不, and 是 is a confirmation, is yes. But 是 can also be used simply as the most basic meaning of being, like this is confirmation, positive. 银河, well, we said before, right, when we have this ... right, that's something related to water, and the right side is the pronunciation. So altogether it means river. And earlier we have a stream or a current over there. Yin means silver. We have this is the metal part that we talked about before. So if this is a metal, it will carry with this for sure, and it's always on the left side, because it would look weird if we have we flipped and have two sides. And this makes more visual sense, and also I guess like handwriting is easier, like more fluid this way. And silver river in Chinese is our way of describing Milky Way. Which one is better? You decide. But it's the sense of it's bright, it's long, it's across the sky, and it's glittering. So that is the sense. And 落, okay, we do have water in there, but we also have this top horizontal with two, thing on it that kind of related to grass, to plant-based. So you have plant and water. And actually, okay, I think, sorry, this is 3-part composition. So it's a little bit more, complicated. So the top part is the meaning signifier. And then the bottom is the sound maker. Okay, so the sound maker altogether sound like a 落. And this is one of the occasions when the sound maker make its own sound carry it into the new word. So sometimes they change the tone, right, when it comes into a new word. But this time it keeps its own tone. 落, without the top part, it also pronounced 落. And 落 simply means leaves falling. So something, grass, plant, it's falling. So we just use that motion, something in nature we see fall as the motion of fall. Okay, and this is the number 9. Now we have 3 and we have 1,000. We see how 10 is below the 1,000, and we have 9 here, right? So you pick up these numbers gradually. This is 9. I don't exactly know why it's written like that, like with this curve and then the opposite direction stroke. But it is our number 9. And 天, okay, so 天, of course, on the top, there's a big flat thing that means that's your ceiling in nature. and below it, without the first line on the top below it, it means big. So this big horizontal thing above you, that signifies that's your sky. And in Chinese legend, I guess, like we also have mythologies that talks about the fairies, gods, our versions of how deities have their life up in the sky, and apparently they have a night stories high, and so the poet used night sky. And I think in the Western classical literature, they also have like a hell. There are also multi-layer of hell. Okay, so altogether, I here want to show you how the character reads and lay out in the traditional Chinese way, which we do read from right to left. So this is the first line we learn, right? And it's vertical, top down, vertical. And for single line, it's top down, vertical. And for the next line, next row, like in our reading, right, it's shifting to the left. So you're starting, when you flip open a book, you start to read from the top right corner instead of top left corner. So that's the difference. And here is kind of a rendering or our imagination of how the poet Li Bai would look like. So that's about the costumes is about right, I guess. So literature men at that time do wear that kind of hat gear, and then the kind of a clothing. And ancient Chinese are kind of, especially the rich people who doesn't need to work, even men are in skirts, like they have long flowing, gigantic gowns. And that way they can be, I guess, bigger than the working class. This is totally my interpretation. But they also express a certain spirit, right? Because it's not short. In Chinese, the clothing can show your class stratification, right? So long gown kind of shows that you're in a higher ranking, you don't need to work. And it is the short ones, the more functional who has to work in a farm or in a marketplace or whatever, need to do labor, need to be practical. So those people, working class, that have short trousers or pants, that's, get rid of the gown, which is totally impractical in the working situation. And with that, I hope you're not overwhelmed, but instead you get to see a little bit of how ancient Chinese literature man looks, and how ancient Chinese poet sounds, and how they make a poetry out of the words. And it comes with, with what we have learned so far, we kind of can read the text and how individual characters make meaning, and how all together, created by poets to give you a sense of time and space, that you feel so small in front of the waterfall, and you have the Milky Way involved in your description of your sense. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Tomorrow we're going to learn something new, and definitely I will keep it short tomorrow. Thank you for your time.